Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Did They Have a Point? Where we are discussing if a particular character within the series has a point with their objective, or if they are good or evil. As I'm getting hyped by Final Fantasy VII, I'm going to be talking about Sephiroth. We'll be looking at all forms of media apart from Advent Children. So, let's do a little background on Sephiroth. Sephiroth was born to Lucretia Crescent and Professor Hojo. During Lucretia's pregnancy, Hojo injected her with Genova cells, thinking Genova was a living Cetra, an ancient people who had power to talk to the planet. Once Sephiroth was born, he was separated by his mother and raised by Shinra, only being told that his mother's name was Genova. Throughout his childhood, Sephiroth felt different from the other children. This led him to not really bonding with many people. The only person he came to respect was Professor Gast until he left Shinra. Sephiroth eventually became the super soldier that Shinra wanted and had a heavily influence in winning the Wutai War. This made him become a popular public figure, which Shinra used as a propaganda tool. Eventually, our white-haired boy finally got to make friends with two fellow first-class soldiers, Angeal and Genesis, but that did not last long. Genesis betrayed Shinra and Angeal followed him. When missions came up for Sephiroth to stop them, he refused most of them and in one mission allowed them to escape. Zack Fair, a fellow first-class soldier, killed Sephiroth's old friends, Angeal and Genesis. Side note, Genesis lives, but this is not known to Sephiroth. The two go on a mission to Nibelheim together, and Sephiroth tells Zack he is considering retiring from Shinra, and their next mission together will likely be their last. Right chaps, before we continue on to the main incident within the game, I just want to point out what a messed up life this guy's had. His own mother did not get to hold him. Raised by a company to be a super soldier, every friend he made betrayed his parents, Shinra, and he's extremely isolated, having no form of comfort or love. So I want to bring this into a real world perspective so we can understand the psychological welfare of Sephiroth currently. A Stanford professor, Ian Gottlieb, in the Department of Psychology stated that the lack of parents have a heavy consequence on the child as they provide a supportive and nurturing relationship. Parents play a critical role in promoting their children's healthy development. They also protect their children from the psychological consequences of significant stress by buffering them from the effects of traumas and helping them to regulate their emotion. Now, Shinra would have made their superstar soldier was well fed and looked after physically, but psychologically a lot went wrong. The main point of this quote I'd like to look at is they also protect their children from the psychological consequences of significant stress by buffering them from the effects of traumas and helping them to regulate their emotions. Controlling his emotion when in direct conflict within his own life is something he struggled with, unable to fight Angeal and Genesis, and then the Nibelheim incident. I just can't help but believe that evil was not natural within Sephiroth, as he showed early signs of empathy and mercy, but instead it was how he was raised and the events that happened to him. Obviously he had to make his own decisions, which we'll realise later on within this video, but I just struggled with it a little bit, reading his lore and his background. I hope you understand his perspective on it too. It's important. All of this information will be useful for our final conclusion. For now it's time to move on to a pivotal moment within Sephiroth's life, the Nibelheim incident. Sephiroth, now with fellow soldier Zack Fair and two Shinra infantrymen, one of them being fan favourite Cloud Strife, Sephiroth and Zack have been sent to Nibelheim to investigate a monster outbreak believed to be connected to Genesis near the town's Mako reactor. Sephiroth goes to the Mako reactor and finds several monsters within pods which are connected to a room with the name Genova on it. Within Crisis Core, Genesis then confronts Sephiroth and explains to Sephiroth was born from the Genova project. He was the end result, the perfect monster. Sephiroth, in shock, locks himself within the manor of Nibelheim, reading all the research notes left over by the surviving researchers. He comes to the conclusion that Genova is a Cetra, therefore as Genova's son he is the last surviving Cetra. Sephiroth believes that the human race has betrayed the Cetra 2,000 years ago, leaving them alone to defend the planet from a calamity. This is revealed to be Genova later within the game, and Sephiroth now has a purpose to take vengeance for his ancestors. Sephiroth then destroys the village with a lot of its inhabitants, leaving only Zack, Cloud, Zangan, Tifa's father, and Tifa. Shortly after Sephiroth enters Genova's chamber, Zack arrives to confront him, but Sephiroth only keeps talking to his mother, saying they will reclaim the planet and head to the Promised Land. He tears off the effigy blocking Genova's remains. Sephiroth defeats and tosses Zack out of the Maker Reactor as he continues to declare himself chosen to rule the planet. Cloud enters with Zack's Buster Sword and impales Sephiroth from behind through the abdomen. The severely wounded Sephiroth decapitates Jenova and stumbles across a room and is again attacked by Cloud. Sephiroth stabs him with his Mazume, but Cloud uses it as a lever to hurl Sephiroth into a pool of Mako below the reactor. Sephiroth vanishes with Genova's head still in his grasp. After this disaster happened and Sephiroth was in the livestream, he should have been consumed, but because his willpower was too great, he travelled through the livestream, growing in power and knowledge. His body ended up in the northern cave inside the northern crater, and his physical body was wrapped by the cocoon of Mako. Sephiroth had a new god at this point, merge with the livestream and become a god. Right, so the Nibelheim incident. I feel like all this could have been avoided if he just would have had a mission and costed his soul. Sephiroth with a nice mixer and a straw hat. Sorry, got distracted there. Sephiroth's actions were evil here. There's no way about it. There's no question. Sephiroth within his own mind that 2,000 years ago, Sentra were hunted down by humans, and so decides because of the supposed actions 2,000 years ago, he'll commit genocide. Obviously Square needed to create an antagonist, and it's hard to create an antagonist with a justifiable reason, so that's why it's highly logical. But it also makes sense. As we spoke earlier, Sephiroth finds it hard to regulate his emotions and he's raised to be a killing machine, the perfect monster. Now finding out he was born like this, these other monsters, made him rebirth from the manor as a monster, which really sucks because we know it could have been different if not for this one mission. God damn it, he should have gone to Costa del Sol! After 5 years from the Nibelheim incident, Sephiroth activates his clones and asks them all to come to the North Cave. Sephiroth then takes control of Jenova remains which were at Shinra headquarters. He frees Cloud and Avalanche due to Cloud being a Sephiroth clone, and then murders President Shinra as his company was after the Cetra Promised Land. There are several instances of Sephiroth torturing and pushing Cloud and Avalanche to come find him after this incident, but eventually they all end up in the Temple of Ancients, where he reveals that the planet uses a lifestream to heal itself when wounded, and so he'll be using a black materia called Meteor to injure the planet and place himself at the centre of impact to merge with the lifestream and become a god. Sephiroth then uses his old mind control trick to force Cloud to give him the black materia, and then kills your highest level character Aerith while she's praying to activate the white materia to summon Holy. The only thing that countered Sephiroth's plan, which would worked, but Sephiroth impaled her with his sword and then suppressed Holy within the planet. Sephiroth's physical body back in the northern crater starts to shapeshift into a form that befits a god. Cloud and his party find Sephiroth within the crater, blocking Holy and strike him down. As a last resort, Sephiroth does try to mind control Cloud, but because Cloud has become stronger, he's able to get rid of his influence and Sephiroth isn't stopped. Until we get to Advent Children, but that's for another video. The more I write the script, the more I realise what a great antagonist this guy really is. I need to go replay Final Fantasy VII again and prepare myself for the Final Fantasy VII remake. Can't wait for it, come on! I will not be going to Advent Children, even though he is the guy causing all the pain and disease. I have finally come to a conclusion, so it's not needed. Okay, final conclusion time. Was he good or evil? Now, even though Sephiroth is the product of his upbringing, like most are, it does not mean you become a genocidal maniac who wants to kill an entire planet. His motivations I find are personally weak, as it's based upon the history that happened 2,000 years ago, and bear in mind this is not proven history, but Sephiroth reads a few books and decides let's go cause some genocide, which kind of reminds me of that edgy kid at school who reads a few books about anarchy and decides down with the system and listen to Rage Against the Machine. Not saying there is nothing wrong with that, because the guy turned out to be a born-again Christian and has a great family. Love you, Steve. When we look at good versus evil, it's always a hard thing to measure, but the main factor we have to look at is his motive. Sephiroth's motive is lacking any purpose, and he gave up being a good person very quickly. Admittedly, it's because he is mentally ill and a huge trauma meeting his alien mother, but still, don't need to kill everyone. The only thing I can't get off my shoulders is that Sephiroth could have retired and had his own chocobo farm if Nibelheim was not his last mission, which could have been so amazing. Make that spin-off Square. Like, it could be like Stardew Valley, but with Sephiroth, and like he could use Mazume to cut down the stuff, and like Final Fantasy people could come visit him. Maybe his real mum Lucretia could come say hello and help him plant stuff. I'm just saying, that is money. That is literally printed money. Take that one for free, Square. Stardew Sephiroth. So now we know Sephiroth is evil, but did he have a point? Nope. Although if you disagree or would like to do anything, please make sure you comment down below to let me know. I know that's quite short when it comes to did he have a point. He genuinely didn't. He lacked the point. Like, his point is because he's this particular race, he needs to exterminate this other race. He's not that race, and it's kind of irrelevant because it's 2,000 years ago. Well, I hope you guys liked the video and have a lovely day. Peace.